generation gap between them and us was 2 generations, not 1 generation. We are the first generation who are on the same wavelength as our children.
We work 6 days a week. We all felt that our parents went through so much that we owed them to be good and to make them happy and never to cause them any aggravation. We always felt guilty. Always. Right, Malky?
What?
We always feel guilty.
Oh, very guilty. Very, very guilty when you have to say, I don't believe that way, or I want to do things different, or your children are getting married, and this is what you can't. You don't know how to say no. I can't say no to my father or my mother. You can't say no to
my
them.
children, to me, can say no. We can't say no to our parents.
And my father only speaks Yiddish to the children. Do you know why I'm alive today? Because I'm alive today because you had to be born. You had to be born, and the grandchildren in Eretz Yisrael, and the Irei Niklach that we have already, that is why I had to stay alive, and you have an achrayus now. You have a responsibility to continue the Yiddishkeit.
Pasach, Sofsa, Tairai, Chofchai.
When we start the alabais and we see a child who's having some difficulty with it, we think to ourselves, wow, what's going to be when we get further on, where he has to actually read? But let me tell you something. They all are able to do it. 3 years is an important date for a child. And we make what's called payers.
Payers? Ik heb dat gestaan. Ik heb een haircut. Aber ja, sie will schneiden. Kim, schneide ich auch. Kim, schneide ein bisschen durch.
Malta. Next to my golden machine.
My mother.
My mom. Oh, Schwingeleben. Schwingeleben. Maar wie gaat schneiden voor de leg? Ja.
Also that day he'll put on for the first time usually a yarmulke. And also the tzitzis, the fringes, he'll put on under his shirt.
Tzitzis.
Our pleasure.
Hasidim believe when one embarks upon a holy quest, the forces of impurity do their utmost to interfere. The boy, who is about to begin his religious education, is wrapped in a prayer shawl to protect him from these forces.
He's brought to yeshiva, and for the first time, he's taught the alabais. Right. Ayin.
Ayin.
As the child says, the letterings of the alabais will take a candy off the letters. There's a tradition of showing a child the sweetness of learning. Siyin.
Siyin.
Tuf.
Tuf.
Suf.
Suf.
It's Aleph.
Aleph.
Mem.
Mem.
Suf.
Suf.
Oh, je zegt geen avoide ingele. En is er geen avoide ingele?
Ja.
Die kan toch als een chance ook de allebei?
The basic barrier the post-World War II Hasidic community had to overcome is to make a decision to deny its children and its grandchildren the great opportunities of America. Here they were in the feast of America, and they had to decide, we are not going to enjoy this feast, which is for the first time easily available to Jews. Remember, when you make a decision that your children and grandchildren are not going to go to college and university, you have made a decision that they are not going to be doctors, they are not going to be lawyers, they are not going to be MBAs from Harvard. You have decided that they are going to be poor, or at best middle class, with the exception of a few who might get rich in business.
Hasidim limit themselves to occupations which are consistent with their way of life. They do not accept jobs which require them to compromise their dress, beliefs, or rituals. Hasidim reject professional careers which demand university degrees.
Being Jewish in any serious sense is to believe in some absolute values, which are not yours to change. The basic premise of a university is relativism, is that we examine all values, they are all man-made ultimately, and they can be changed.
And the university, for them, is the height of impurity, because what does it do? First, it fills your mind with all kinds of heretic ideas. Secondly, it puts men and women in close contact with one another at just the point in life when their hormones are working.
In our society, we have two separate schools. We don't have co-ed, we have separate boys and girls schools.
It's very, very cold. Go upstairs, it's cold like this. Good morning, Kendall. The purpose of them coming to school is to prepare them for their roles ultimately as Jewish mothers. And the only way they can be prepared as Jewish mothers is if they get the proper Jewish education.
A Hasidic girl takes pride in becoming a mother and raising her family. She feels she's achieving something. Who says running Westinghouse is important? After 100 years, who's going to remember who ran Westinghouse, and who cares? Your children will be a legacy for your life, for forever.
Girls, as they grow up, these are our future mothers. They have a very, very important role to play. I could say more important than the future fathers. The mother is the one who instills everything which the child will remember all his years.
Good morning. Come. Come. Come, puppets. Gonna wash your Nägel Wasser. And say, my Danny, come on, please. Zwei. My dad, Ani, Lefunecha, Melech Chai, V'Kayam. And I feel my job is raising the kids, trying to teach them values and thanking God for everything. I had a lovely breakfast. I have to thank God for it. Even though I laid it out, He did it.
When a woman lights the Shabbos candles, it's written that she can request from God anything she would like. The heavens open up to her, and she has her own moment with God. She can ask for her children to be healthy, for her husband to be healthy, for her family to be healthy. When I was growing up, I would always hear people talking about, women's lib, and I never really understood that because where I grew up, it was really never like that. And we say that the wisdom of a home is based on the woman. The woman is the foundation of her home.
Hasidic women are expected to find spiritual fulfillment primarily in motherhood. They are told this role is so important, it takes priority over public prayers and the study of Torah.
If women's role is really so important, why don't you have a mother to be the Rebbe? Why isn't she the one that you turn to when you really want to know what God wants? Why are they the ones who are hidden behind a curtain and pushed to the back of the synagogue? Well, we're told that the reason is because if men heard their voices, they might be distracted from their all-important prayers that God has commanded them to pray. Well, if I were God and I were looking for somebody to do my will, I wouldn't pick somebody who's so easily distracted that if he heard a woman's voice, he wouldn't be able to pray anymore. I'd pick the women.
The Hasidic world is hierarchical, deferential, which means that there are clearly assigned roles for all peoples in it. There are adults, there are children, there are men, there are women, there are rabbis, there are laymen. And people have roles. And there's none of this contemporary yearning, this contemporary agony over being in one role and really want to be someone else. You don't have children that want to be adults or women that want to be men or men that want to be women. So that it's a traditional society in that sense.
At the age of 15, I could not have vocalized it the way I do now. Something in me needed to leave. You wake up one morning and you just say, I have no choice. I have to do this. My initial education was focused very much on women's values. Because they give birth, their bodies are holy vessels. There's a lot of holy and spiritual responsibility for the girl, and so they start them young, but they really need to keep them on a very narrow path. And it's not necessarily all discipline. It is really beautiful at times, but I think for me it was very difficult to deal with that kind of boundaries. I couldn't, for example, run off, write a poem, and not worry about what's in the poem. So I felt like I had to censor myself. Everything I did, I'd have to look over both shoulders. I wanted to know what it felt like to be walking in the street and do whatever you want. Was it really this wild and crazy and unfocused existence? Was it really not spiritual? What is spiritual? So all of these questions that I had, they were, in a certain way, they were disallowed in a Beis Yaakov school and certainly in the Hasidic home environment.
Our schools now in Brooklyn all have school uniforms. Our uniforms must be 4 inches below the knee. The longest Catholic school uniforms are at least 5 inches above the knee. It's for tznius purposes. Tznius means modesty. It means you don't make people stare at you when you're in the street. You don't draw any attention to yourself, basically. That's what it is.
It's not to stress your beauty in the sense where physical beauty is not what comes first, inner beauty is. And I think that's a very beautiful value. But the way that they stress it is with outside concerns.
We try to keep them separate from outside exposures which we feel are detrimental to the kedusha, the purity of their neshamos, of their souls. And in keeping with that, there is absolutely no outside media that comes into the home, especially the television.
I like that.
I was watching TV when I was in the hospital, and I was amazed that a woman could sit home and watch TV all day and doesn't become mentally ill. At the end of the day, what are you saying like that? I was amazed.
We also have a beautiful library in our school, but at the same time we censor the books that our children read to make sure that they only read things that are in keeping with the lifestyle that we would like them to live.
That's another way that they educate, by making negative what's out there and different than us. I can't live in this environment. I can't say I need to live this separated life. I am better. I can't put down others to move on. I was curious about the others.
If I were anywhere else and these are non-Jewish children or non-Orthodox Jewish children, I'm presuming that at least one of them would say, well, mister, what's going on? What are you doing? Or hello, or nothing like that. In fact, I said hello, and they sort of, hi. One young lady said hi, and the others pulled her back. And I said to myself, these are children. These are children that are going to grow up and be adults one day. And the perceptions that they have of me, or as a black man, or as a non-Jewish person, I'm not too sure. I don't know what to presume. They're being conditioned to think a certain way now. When they're older, when they're in their 20s, I mean, what is that going to mean? What's that going to mean as far as the community that they live in? Living in New York City, which is predominantly non-white. What's that going to mean when there's some sort of conflict or potential for conflict between Jewish and non-Jewish peoples, and there's going to be a need to communicate?
In fact, we were brought up to believe, boys, girls, everybody, that you really are the elite. You are the spiritual elite, and I felt very bad for the people who weren't born into the Hasidic lifestyle. You know, I had a certain compassion for them.
When Hasidim started moving into their enclaves, many of the long-time Jewish residents fled. This left Hasidim increasingly isolated among their new black and Latino neighbors.
Hasidim tend to live in close proximity to other minorities, be it Puerto Ricans, be it blacks, be it Caribbeans, and being Haitians. And there is no question that it is a great source for friction between the communities. Perhaps it will force Hasidism to look for other locations outside of the big cities.
They were going around the circle and they were singing, and I asked the gentleman exactly what was going on, and he told me about the ceremony before Yom Kippur. Then he said to me, "Are you married?" I said, "No, sir, I'm not." He said, "Well, are you in church? Do you go to church?" I said, "No, I do not." And he said, "We Jews, we love everybody. You know, we don't hate anybody. We're not violent people." What? I wasn't contesting that, but it's what he ended with. What really kind of offended me. I had to laugh. He said, "We pray for you people too." And I laughed because to me, what's implicit in that is that somehow we need prayers, and that somehow, oh, the poor black people, let's pray for them. We're from the sort of the position where we can bless them. It's very paternal, very patronizing, and I laughed, and he sort of patted me on the shoulder and walked away. And I said to myself, this man has no idea what he has just said to me. And I shake my head, because it's obvious that it's a cultural phenomenon that makes people react angrily. Not because they seclude themselves, but because they have an air of arrogance, spiritual arrogance, for lack of a better term.
Hasidim do not have the choice of moving when, quote, the neighborhood changes, because their institutions are in the neighborhood. Their Rebbe is in the neighborhood. They cannot move away as individuals. They can only move if the entire community or a branch of it moves and recreates its institutions.
Hasidim remain in neighborhoods where everyday interactions are often characterized by resentment and mutual suspicion. These tensions have led to political turf battles over the allocation of public housing and other government services.
These Hasidim say, look, we don't want to invite you to our house, and because we don't want to be invited to your house. Not because we have anything against you. We don't eat the same food. We don't have anything against you personally. We have things against you culturally. We don't want to share in your way of life. We view it as threatening and dangerous.
Hasidim are also threatened by Jews whose interpretation of Judaism differs from their own.
I don't have a rosy picture of the Hasidic community. I work in a hospital here in Manhattan as a chaplain, so I get called to different patients' rooms. And I see all Jews, and I see Christians as well, but Jews from all backgrounds. There was a young boy, about 7 years old, who came for a bone marrow transplant. And I knew his family was very observant, from a small Hasidic community in Israel. A few days later, the mother pulled me aside and she said that I wasn't allowed to go in and visit him anymore. And I said, why? And she said that her husband felt that it was not good for the child, too confusing. My skirts weren't long enough. I didn't cover my hair. They wouldn't let me be there in the only way that I know how, to try to ease some of that pain.
In America, the relationship between love and marriage is such that you're first supposed to fall in love with someone, then you get married. For Hasidim, it's very different. First of all of their marriages are arranged. It's not only because that's different from America, but because love is, after all, a very disruptive element. Romantic love can be very disruptive. You can fall in love with anybody. God forbid, it's the wrong person.
The most important mitzvah we have is to get married and to have children. And basically, these are, at this point, my single boys. These are my single girls, and note that I have more boys than girls, despite what people think. And right after the date, the next morning, sometimes even that night, I just call up, are you home yet? Leave a message. She can call me the second you get home. How was it? What do you mean terrible? What's wrong? What do you mean she's not pretty? She's gorgeous. I don't exactly lead them to the ceremony, but I basically feel that if they're the right age and the right environment, that they grew up similar and that they have the right same ideals, it could be what's called a shidduch.
Well, the children rely on the parents mainly for shidduch. I mean, the main person that's in such a shidduch is the matchmaker. They call you up, they have a boy or they have a girl. In my case, I had the son.
I was looking only for money. Money, money, money. Because I wanted to sit and learn further. Without money, I knew that you can't sit and learn. And I have to work. I won't be able to continue this type of life that I wanted. But my mother wasn't looking for money. My mother was looking for a nice girl, good heart. I don't care about a girl. Like, what I know about a girl. I thought I'm going to put her into, I'll sit and learn a whole year and then she'll just give me supper.
And my son was a young child. This was his first date. Never spoke to a girl.
I couldn't even look into her. You look this straight because as a Hasidic bocher, which means teenager, I sat and learned. I never even saw a girl, maybe my sister.
So der Rebbe hat gehört die ganze Meise, gesagt, als Masken gewesen, haben sie machen den Schidder. Sicher, besetzt, zufrieden gewesen, sie geht die Besprüche sehr gut zu Besprüche, rabbunische Besprüche, Rabbunim, große Landem.
The next morning, I went into to the yeshiva, and I sat back into my Gemara, and I forgot about everything. I left it up to my mother. She should take care of the wedding. My father take care of the clothing. I'm sitting and learning.
In Brasem, wir sehr schöne Hasene. In Brasem geboren geworden 4 Kinderlach ein.
Ach, Heili, am Feine, Bobo. Mazel tov, Mazel tov, Mazel tov.
A non-Hasidic parent has to tell the facts of life to his children or her children. Hasidim don't have to worry about that. There's somebody set aside who does that job right before the marital night. The young man is brought in, and the very thing that he has never been allowed to talk about, he's suddenly talking about, and he's talking about with a man who has a beard, who is obviously a pious Jew, and the man begins by saying, I'm going to tell you something that you've never talked about before, but don't worry, you're going to be all right. The first thing is, what I'm going to tell you, Abraham, our father, did it, Isaac did it, Jacob did it, your father did it, even the Rebbe did it.
Today, every Hasidic family is having 10, 12, 13, 14 kids. So you're having the largest size Hasidic families of all time, which creates tremendous economic problems for the community.
Most Hasidim prefer to earn their living within their enclaves. However, economic necessity compels many to venture into Manhattan. This has led to compromises and has allowed American culture to seep in. Despite their efforts to live apart in America, they have nevertheless become American Hasidim.
I had occasion to go to one of the electronic stores in Midtown Manhattan that was really run by Hasidim. But then I looked and I saw there's something wrong with this picture. There was a Satmar Hasid standing behind the counter, and he's talking to a customer who is a woman wearing a very immodest dress, her head uncovered, the kind of woman he would never talk to face within his world. And he's talking to her, and he says at the end, will that be cash or charge? She answers the question. He fills out the slip, he hands it to her, and says, take it to the cashier to pay, have a nice day. I thought to myself, have a nice day, this quintessential American expression. How could he say have a nice day? That is already being swallowed up by America. And I realized that that chassid, every time he goes to work and says, have a nice day to women who are immodestly dressed, he is in a way undermining that enclave culture, that culture war in which he is engaged in when he goes back home to Williamsburg.
Ich stelle mich vor der Television. Wir suchen noch einen heiligen Willen zu reden, von der Ruche eines mit Kindern kommt noch ein Picture von ihm. Sagt als ich mache ein Picture, no? Also ich kann nicht von uns, ich mache eine Picture. Ich habe eine Gas, ich mache ein Leben davon. Oh, ich darf von uns, no? Also hergestellt, jetzt von uns, no? Also ich darf ein Picture, ich darf ein Leben. Ich bin kein Mensch, ich kann nicht Television, ich halte nicht mit Television, ich halte schon all die Sachen. Und ich bin nicht sehen, dass in Television, no? Also ich darf von uns. Aber von uns, also... Sei gesund, kalt ist. Freilich Pieren. Bye, sei gesund.
father-in-law went bankrupt. So I became a teacher. But somehow I just didn't like this job. So I went into the Bavli Rebbe and I spoke to him. So the Bavli Rebbe told me, he said these words: the world is big. Go out, look for a business, a job, and do it with your whole heart, and you'll be successful. I think I was in a doctor's office or something. There was an NYU bulletin, and I saw that Fat Bulletin has thousands of jobs, thousands. So somehow, I always loved antiques, and I saw the appraisal courses. I jumped to it. My first 2 years was very difficult. I was called to jobs, let's say to Annabelle, Staten Island, places where I never heard of and not Jewish. The whole week is very difficult for me to feel like a chassid. I'm so involved in business. The only time when I really feel like a chassid is Shabbos. Usually Friday I don't go to work already. I start preparing for the Shabbos. My girls come home from school, 12 o'clock, and we go out shopping. Shabbos is here. We feel a special happiness coming.
Good Shabbos.
Before the Hasidim came to America, they could see no way of serving God in this Trefena Medina, in this impure land.
Once here, Hasidim resisted becoming assimilated into the culture of America.
But after 50 years, they have discovered it is indeed possible to be a Hasid, even in America.
The people who were born overseas, especially the Holocaust survivors who came to America, Hasidic Holocaust survivors, have a great appreciation of America. And they compare the American government to the governments of oppression who discriminated so much against Jews. Those who were born here don't know any other kind of an experience and take it for granted.
My children went to Yeshiva University and colleges, and they were brought up not wearing red beards and in the shtramers and things like that. And then when my oldest son got married, he decided to wear the whole getup. And I was not very happy about it because it reminded me of Poland. It reminded me of my father when he walked down the street, how people were jeering, how people were throwing stones, and I, as a child, a young girl of 8, 9, felt very hurt and sorry for my father. And I didn't even realize that when you're born in America, you are free. You don't have that feeling of being afraid. And he decided, no, that's what I want to be, and that's how I want to conduct my life, and inside and outside.
As far as the dress, my father never wanted to go all the way in adopting it. For some reason, he came to America and he didn't have money, my father. So he took on this way of life that he has now, some more of a modern outlook. But on the other hand, inside, he's really a chassid at heart. And he really sits here and enjoys seeing his einiklach, with long payas, because really, deep down, he wants to be like that. But he's already outgrown it. He really can't go back to it. Although I want to predict at this point that in Vietnam, in another 10 years, he'll grow a long white beard and he'll put on a bekisha and he'll look just like all the rest of us.
The Rebbe asked his Hasidim, "Where is the dwelling of God?" "What a thing to ask," one of them replied. "Isn't the whole earth filled with his glory?" The Rebbe answered, "God dwells wherever man lets him in."
Hasidim believe that God dwells in all that exists. Therefore, everything can be used to serve him. They discovered that even American media, which they exclude from their homes, can be used for a higher spiritual purpose. Lubavitch, the Hasidic group most open to innovation, has even found ways of using television to attract more Jews to religious life.
And the Rebbe said anything that was created in the world should be used to bring out the message. Let it be television, let it be radio, let it be a newspaper.
Even if we can't get it in, we need a setup shot. Get a good shot, yeah. Get a good shot. We didn't have it last year. Last year we used something from a tape piece. Then we need a setup shot. You know, preview, camera, whatever. They're going to Moscow next. We want to have, every time we want to establish a wide shot.
Then you should tell her, we want first a wide shot from camera number.
Exactly, but I don't want to tell her that every time.
Right.
I want to set that up now. Does she speak English?
Good English.
No problem with that.
Ну как народ? Вот там метро, вот метро. Зеленый домик, там уже метро.
We're going to have live links between 5 major capitals in the world, each one lighting its own Hanukkah menorah, and by this uniting Jews from all over the world in one big Hanukkah celebration.
И две камеры, значит, одна сбоку и вторая сбоку. Две камеры оттуда работают.
And of course, there are all these details who we weren't taught about in yeshiva, of satellites and transporters and all this kind of new modern technology. The Red Square and the Kremlin were known to be the place where all the anti-religion and anti-God thoughts came from. People were used to not telling even their neighbors that they were Jewish, crossing off their documents the word Ivrei, which means Jewish. By lighting a menorah in the street, we are proclaiming, look, you have to be proud and happy to be a Jew, and you can rejoice being a Jew even in the streets. We're trying to get the Russian army band to come play some Jewish songs for us.
Да, слышно. А меня слышно? Володя Полухин, ответь, пожалуйста. Please be patient 1 second.
Полный здоровый Ребе, сразу сейчас, сегодня! אשר קידשנו במצוותיו וציוונו להדליק נר חנוכו.
I just spoke to New York. They said they got everything, beautiful pictures, and everything was perfect.
The Hasidim gain something in this world. Their values are secure. their role models are secure. The Rebbe, the living Rebbe, is their role model. Their community is secure. Their extended family exists for them. All of the things which are now questionable in America. We're all looking for role models, for values, for meaning. That's the great word in America. All of this exists for the Hasidim. In return for this, they live a life within very strict boundaries, and they do not participate in the great American race for success. But at this moment, the great American race for success seems to be a race that not many people, or certainly not most people, can win.
Nice pass, nice pass, nice pass, nice pass. I'll very often say to my students that although they may find it hard to believe, that would I be given the choice of being the coolest athlete in the most popular co-ed school in the yeshiva circuit, on the one hand, and being able to spend a Shabbos in Skver together with the Rebbe in a serious Hasidic atmosphere, I would take the latter. And I think that that's hard for them to understand because their spiritual antenna have been cut by modernity. So basically, I'm trying to repair that antenna apparatus so that they can feel what it means and understand what it means to live a life of meaning.
While I could have had a wonderful lifestyle, I needed to be doing something a bit more out there, and maybe even out there in this world. I mean, I'm a writer, and I'm now at school and studying European studies. I like to travel back and forth to Europe. I like that freedom. I like the ability to talk to both men and women without having that be a problem. I go back to Borough Park regularly. I have a relationship with my family. I don't have a hard time going to Borough Park. I have a hard time bringing the whole self there. It doesn't make sense, which is why I left it in the first place. What I realize I'm missing is this sense of enlightenment, this sense of definitive, I know what I'm doing spiritually and I'm correct. I don't know if I need to look for that elsewhere. I don't know if I need to look for that period, but it is something that I see in people, the way that they walk, the way that they talk, the way that they have this community. And I do miss that. I miss that sense of community. I miss that security that people have in each other.
Einer, was Hasidic Community meint, als zu sein Ayid ist eine schwere Sache. Man sucht zu schwer zu sein Ayid. Ich habe viel verkehrt, es ist schwer zu sein Agoy. Wie kann sein Ayid, gibt der Hand auf der Nacht, ins zu trinken, dann geht nach Hause, mit singen, mit zu freilich machen. Welcher Goy hat das Tag in unser Leben? Kann ich ja. Ayid ist ich sehe Schabes auf meinem Tisch, mit meinen Kindern, in der Vier an Tisch. Ich glaube nicht, dass der größte Präsident hat das nur Rochni ist, wie ich auch.
Nou, laten we dansen. Mensen, in Zakan, ik ga vragen, schrijven. Mia, we gaan even. In Zakan, gaan. In Nasenai, Nasenai. In Zakan, gaan. Nasenai, Nasenai. In Zakan, gaan. In Zakan, gaan.
To my father, every grandchild that's born, it's like a stoch to the Germans. We get together once a year, the whole family. That was Hanukkah. I mean, you have to come with earplugs because so much babies crying. It's like so much noise. But for my father, it's to him the biggest pleasure. It's just to see 72 grandchildren, and all of them have the names of his family. Mother, father, grandfather, if we all gave the name, it's like, you know, seeing his family again.
Sag mal, ich komme erst mal von Amerika. Ist gegangen auf der Gas, mit der Strahl und Kaffee Freitag. Hat sich umgerufen dort ein Amerikaner hier, das ich kann verlangen, als die europäische Jiden kommen schon rüber, wir kommen Strahl und Kaffee, und mit 30 da rein, also das. Sagt hat mir der Rebbe mit Kalium nach Amerika. Der Rebbe hat noch nicht Kalium gemacht in Amerika, aber ich will es Kalium machen.
Once, the story goes, the Torah scroll wouldn't fit into its new cover. Someone suggested they cut the Torah down to size. Ridiculous? Of course. It's the cover that must be altered. The Rebbes said, we will not modify the Torah to fit America. We will tailor America to fit the Torah.
I teach in a modern Orthodox high school. The modern Orthodox are vastly different than the Hasidim in that they live culturally in America. And I think I would become disheartened if it wouldn't be for the tremendous sustenance that Hasidic books and Rebbes and stories and teachings gives me. I don't think I have the strength to confront the victims of shopping mall America.
Oh, way to go, Will. Way to go, way to go, way to go, way to go.
I was born into a fairly typical Brooklyn 1950s Jewish milieu, which was vaguely culturally Jewish, but not religious in any sense of the term. We were Democrats politically and rooted for the Brooklyn Dodgers and celebrated Hanukkah and Pesach, and that was the extent of our Jewishness.
Sam, why don't you put the Hanukkah candles in the menorah for tonight?
I was just going to do that.
Susan, would you please help me in the kitchen?
Okay, Mom.
During my childhood, meaning haunted me. That there is something more to life than just a bourgeois pursuit of security. And finally, when my parents moved from Queens to Rockland County, and we lived in very close proximity to the Orthodox community of Muncie.
He walked over to New Square one day when he was 12 years old. It was before his bar mitzvah. He went with two friends of his. They walked into New Square.
Transmitting its story to the next. Today, Hani and Beryl's newborn son will be circumcised. Hani's mother looks on as her grandchild is given a Hebrew name, a name which will link the child to the generations which preceded it.
We named our new baby Shalom for my grandfather who passed away this year. When he came to America, he was sent by the previous Lubavitch Rebbe to start the school here.
He should just be able to live up to his name. He's stubborn. You have to be stubborn, you know? You have to be stubborn to be able to do things. He's going to be a great man.
Benzi! Go, get to dir. Benzi an! Christi macht, das ist auf dem Schammes, dem Schammes. Was ich? Allah Nisim,
The impact that my father had on me is still, even after the Holocaust, he still stayed a religious Hasidic Jew. There is a connection from father to grandfather, great-grandfather, great-grandfather, going to the past. We sing an old song from 150, 200 years old. It's emotional and it's holy and it's beyond words.
Stream.
Hasidim don't consider themselves American or Polish or anything else. They are living in America as they are living in Poland. They don't, for that matter, consider themselves Israelis. Their prime identity, to use Hasidic parlance, is Avodas HaBoire, which means the worship of the Lord.
Hasidim reject many things Americans take for granted. Television, movies, sports, pop music. Men and women are separated by distinct roles in many aspects of daily life. They don't send their kids to public schools or universities. Instead, Hasidim teach their children to live according to the Torah, the teachings contained in the 5 books of Moses.
The Hasidim came to America primarily in the 50s, at a time when the common wisdom was that you pretty much lost your particularistic cultural attributes after a brief period in America, which is what had happened to other Jewish immigrations.
Rich or poor, old or young, the Jews came to this land for the same reasons as the Swedes, the Irishmen, and the Italians, to fulfill a simple human dream, to live in freedom, peace, and prosperity, to work and to rear their children. The Jew, too, has blended into the American landscape. He is part of the music, the catchwords of his country and his century.
Merry Christmas, Paul. Happy Hanukkah, Jerry.
And the Hasidim didn't do that. They maintained their old-style Eastern European approach. And the fascinating question is, why did they succeed? How did they succeed? And I think there are 2 factors here. One was the tremendous strength of the Hasidic leaders that came over at that time, who said, darn it, we are going to recreate our societies here in America. And we don't care how funny it looks or how bizarre or how many people laugh at us or how difficult it's going to be in any way. We are going to recreate it right here in America. We came back to public school the next day, and the whole class knew of our trip. And they're all crowding around. They're saying, what happened? What happened in New Square? What went on there in New Square? And my friend Paul was relating the story. And he got to that point where he says, the door opened and the Rebbe came out. And one of the girls yells out, she says, well, what did he look like? What did he look like? And Paul just paused and he said, he looked like Moses coming down from the mountain.
He explained to me exactly how he felt and how he wanted to live his life. And when I realized that this was what he wanted, I accepted it. I, however, did tell him that if this is the way you choose to live your life, please don't try to influence Jay, who was my youngest son.
The previous Skvera Rebbe left a profound impression upon me. He was this saint who, when he would pray or study or whatever, you got a sense that he was elsewhere. And yet he could turn around the next minute and speak to somebody whose business had failed, or whose wife couldn't conceive, or any number of problems, and was willing to bring himself down to the lowest of levels to communicate with any human being. So that, to me, was basically what I had been looking for.
Well, good health.
Skver, Bobov, Satmar, Belz, Lubavitch. Even in America, Hasidim have kept the names of their towns and villages. They refuse to let the story of these places and those who lived in them fade from memory.
I can't believe that it's 50 years since we were liberated, and I say it's unbelievable how time flies.
Why was I the lucky one to live through and to see this? And my parents didn't see that. I told a German I'll give him everything that I have to, I'll give him one. Give him one arm, one leg, one eye, to let him live. It didn't help, nothing. And you can understand how I feel by living through and raising 2-3 generations already that I see. And I hope to God to see more of them in good health with my wife for many, many years.
I was blessed that I am alive and I can see this. Maybe I did something good in my life. Maybe.
Hasidic survival depends upon each generation
Tonight, on these streets in the heart of Brooklyn, New York, the Bobov Hasidic Community has come together in celebration.
Their spiritual leader, their Rebbe, has lived to see the wedding of his great-granddaughter. When Hasidic survivors arrived in this country after World War II, America opened its doors to them.
Like most immigrants before them, it was taken for granted they would soon lose their Eastern European ways.
However, Hasidim refused to follow this script.
I noticed that the women always wear wigs and they wear long dresses. I noticed that.
It seems that they do have close families. They're very family-orientated, it seems.
Then I'm always struck by how many children the women are having.
Not a chassid because I'm a woman, and I believe in egalitarianism.
They squeeze George Washington real tight. They really do. They good. I need somebody like that to save money for me.
They smell, they don't know how to dress, they all dress the same, they're ugly, they're mean, they push.
The kids do have respect in their own.